Yeah. Yeah. Hello. This is Jason E., and welcome to the Trading and Ascension podcast. While discussing topics related to personal development, spiritual growth, and day trading, this podcast provides thought-provoking concepts and direct source energy to help us evolve as humans and professional traders, all while I'm logging my journey. Today, we have a special guest on the show, a really special guest. We'll be talking to Paula T. Webb, and this is really great. Paula is the former manager of Trading 4 operations at Mid-Am. If you're not familiar, that's the first exchange to offer mini contracts. She's a former floor trader in T-bonds, author of 15 books, including the co-author with Mark Douglas. She's the co-founder of the field of trading psychology. And this is the 80s. So there was really no use of that term before getting into that, before they started that. 4 books translated in 9 languages and taught at Walton University of Pennsylvania, University of Michigan, UCLA, University of Kansas, University of Illinois, Chicago. The books are ranked number 10 in sales year in and year out. And that's in the business and trading books category. And that's all time. That's not just, last year's numbers or 2021 numbers, because of the message. And the message is timeless. And we're really going to dive in that today. So she really helps traders believe that the mind, the body, and the spirit are all connected to their financial goals and to their personal freedom, and really overcoming the fear of not achieving their goals. Also, we're going to talk about, and we'll learn about understanding why you have to learn how to think, and you have to learn to know what you don't know, so they can move forward, and so traders can move forward in a positive and a confident mindset to accomplish their dreams. So I'm really excited. A lot of what we talk about today is going to be understanding the difference between thinking like a winner versus a fake trader. So Trading Ascension listeners, you are in for a treat. And like we hate to drive through, let's get it in. Paula T., welcome to the Trading and Ascension podcast.
Thank you, Jason, for having me here today. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited. And that was you have a lot of accomplishments and a lot of value added to the industry. Did I miss anything noteworthy that I may have missed in the intro?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
I would say, is there anything that I might have missed from all your accomplishments in your introduction?
Oh, no, I think you did a pretty good job.
Excellent.
That's kind of it in a nutshell. So
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's definitely, it's huge. And I want to start at a high point, because I know we're going to deep dive and we'll get into the weeds of some of your concepts. I think, and you can tell me, a good starting place, but I think a high point to start before we deep dive is an understanding of the mechanical, the subjective, and the intuitive approach to improvement as a trader. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Okay. First of all, I'll kind of do it backwards. The mechanical approach is simply this. You get your setups, you place your trades, you place your stops. That's it. You don't even watch the market for the most part, because it's like an engine, a car engine. You turn the key on and the engine does its thing to get you where you want to go, right? But you're not looking inside the engine at the time. Okay? So That's mechanical. So you don't need to mess with it. You just put on your trades, put in your stops, turn off your computer. And this primarily works for those traders who are still working at another job while they're learning how to trade or while trading part-time. So that's really something that I suggest traders who are not doing this full-time do. The subjective is a little more different, whereas you're getting your setups, you're putting on your trades and your stops. This is a cardinal rule. You always use stops, but you're going to be watching the markets to see how your trades are working for you or not. So you're going to be sitting there day trading. And I use that term loosely because even though you may carry a position overnight or for several days or a week, the point is you will still be looking at the markets versus the mechanical trader who doesn't have to look at the markets because of whatever reasons he may not be interested, he may not have the time, whatever. Then you get into the intuitive phase. And the intuitive phase, and I know a lot of you listening to this are probably going to say, I knew the market was going to do that. And you probably are tuned in at times to your intuition. But it really takes quite a lot of time invested in self-reflection to be clean and clear about whether it's truly intuition or it's wishing and hoping. Now, we all wish and hope to make a boatload of money in the markets. I get it. That's why we're all traders. We want to make more money than we ever have. That's great. That's fantastic. That's why I'm a trader. That's why all of you out there are traders. But when you're passionate about something, there's a fine line, and this is kind of the gray area that most people don't really understand, because you can be passionate about something but still be unattached to the outcome, or as Mark would say, having a carefree state of mind, meaning your intuition can tell you that the market's going in this direction, but if you get attached to that market direction that you think is intuition, then you've lost your focus. So it's not really intuition after that point. You're just kind of in a mess. So truly having an intuitive sense about the market takes quite a bit, as I said a few moments ago, of personal self-reflection, because everything you see in the market is going to come back at you and bring up anything about yourself that you're not comfortable with. Fear of loss, feeling stupid, not smart enough, not educated enough, anything that you think you don't care about anymore, that is going to manifest in your trading. So the three types of trading, the mechanical, which is what I am, strictly mechanical. It's just easy for me. The subjective, meaning you're watching the markets and you're checking your analysis and all that. And then the intuitive. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. Mark Douglas was a very intuitive trader. He had it. I don't really have that like he did. I'm not saying I'm not intuitive, but I'm not watching the markets day in and day out any longer because, let's face it, I work by myself now, so I don't have the luxury of that. Down the road I will again, but just not right now. But what works for me, and this is what's really key for all of you guys out there to understand, is each trader has to figure out which type of trader they're comfortable with. Now, everybody wants to be an intuitive trader. Don't get me wrong. Everyone, every trader I've talked to for the last 3 decades, right? But again, if you don't know what you don't know about yourself internally in your mental environment, then you can't be intuitive on a consistent basis. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And so you talk about it takes time to get to that intuitive nature, and I definitely understand that. Just getting on the path when you are thinking about the clients and just anyone who gravitates to your content, do they have to have experience to understand the need for trading psychology, or can they learn this before actually taking a trade or bumping their head?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I would recommend that. I would prefer that because then you don't have any bad habits that you have to untangle. So anyone who's a newer trader, it doesn't matter if you just decided to trade or you're 6 months into it or 2 years into it or you're 20 years into it. It doesn't really matter, because if you're not moving forward and with a rising equity curve, then there's something that's limiting you, and you just need to find out what that is. And it may be something very simple. So when I said a few moments ago that it takes a lot of effort, and a while to create an intuitive mindset to trade,
Uh-huh.
that is a fact. However, it doesn't mean it's going to take years or months. If you are dedicated to learning about yourself and how you think, and you want to expand your thoughts to improve your trading, then this process can be very simple and very easy and very quick.
Wow, that's very encouraging. And I just want to expand because you said learning how you think. What does that process entail? Is that understanding the nature of your thoughts? Is it where your thoughts come from? What exactly is learning how we think as traders?
It's kind of all of that, Jason. And I mean, we got to think about when we're all growing up. We go to school. There's rules. You got to listen to the teacher, and basically, you're taught to memorize and
Right.
and remember statistics and dates and that kind of thing. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times I heard a teacher all the way up through high school yell at kids, including myself, who were looking out the window and yell at them or rap, their ruler on their desk saying, "Stop daydreaming."
Right.
Now, that is taking the child out of the creative process and taking that student away from possibly thinking of new ways to think, to possibly learn a lesson better or more effectively. So, by the time, and then we go get our first jobs and all this kind of stuff, and then we got bosses telling us what to do. We got family members, all of that, friends, coworkers. So we're programmed to fit in, which we have to. We all live in a society. We all want to get along.
Right.
But when it comes to trading, now we are subjected to an environment that is unlimited, in constant motion, and can provide us with our wildest dreams of financial freedom or take them away just as quickly. So our brains are not wired to think expansively. They're wired to think in a limited fashion and a linear fashion. So we have to learn that first and then understand how we can, let's say, update that programming, because it's all good programming that gets us to where we are today. We just need to expand that programming and learn how to think in infinite ways, because there is infinite wealth out there, guys. You really have to believe this. There is infinite wealth to be made in the markets. But if you don't see it, you can't get it.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And there's something about trading because I've taken on a lot of endeavors in my life, and there's something about trading that forces, like you mentioned, um, you to have to face yourself and face your thoughts. What do you think is unique about trading, and it just makes us have to change the brain that we brought into trading?
Well, it makes us um, have to take a look at the main thing, in my opinion, is it makes us take a look at what we haven't accomplished yet. And for some traders, that's really difficult. They can say, "Well, gee, I thought I was doing really well at this other job," and then they get into trading and they don't necessarily make money right away, or they have boom and bust cycles, and that just brings up a lot of other limiting feelings about themselves, about how much they really haven't accomplished even in a previous job.
Right.
And that can be daunting, because
Yeah.
everybody wants to think they're successful to some degree. But if you really don't feel that 100%, or you don't believe that about yourself 100%, your first couple losing trades in trading is going to bring that right up in front of you.
Yeah.
you know, but that's okay, because that's a good thing, because then it's there, and then you can just say, "I don't need to think like that anymore. I am a success." And let me just say this before we continue: anyone who has a trading account, no matter what size, is already a success. You saved that money, you worked for that money, and you opened a trading account. So you already are a success. So what I teach traders is, you're already a success. Let's just expand that.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and that's great because there is somewhat of a roller coaster. Um, with that attachment, is the idea to break that attachment? Is it to lean towards a total positive nature? What do you do with that attachment to where if you lose, you feel like a loser. If you win, you're on top of the world. And really, what's the solution for that wave and riding that wave?
To think that you're a success right now.
Mm.
It doesn't matter if you have a losing trade, because you're always going to have losing trades. That's the nature of the markets. If you did everything right, if you followed all your rules without fail, and the trade didn't work out due to market conditions, then there's no reason to feel upset as long as you followed all your rules. Now, if you didn't follow your rules, of course, that's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole set of parameters. But if you followed everything right and the trade just didn't work, that's it. That's what trading's all about. So, as long as you followed your rules, then there's no reason to get upset, because there's always opportunity in the markets to make money. Always. But if you don't truly believe that either, because you were invested on a previous trade, well, then that's something you need to work on too. And a lot of traders really don't believe that. They really don't believe there's always opportunity. It's like, the markets are open, in some cases 24/7. So how is there not opportunity anywhere?
Right. Yeah. And so I'm understanding that we have to have these beliefs. We have to believe we're successful, even going into trading. And then I'm battling the concept and merging these, because I hear that at the same time, we shouldn't have expectations in trading. How do you balance that? How do you have the success belief and then not have the expectations?
First of all, if you understand what thinking in probabilities is all about, that means it's a probable outcome for every single trade you put on. Every single trade or set of trades. It's a probable outcome. Doesn't matter how much analysis you've done. It doesn't matter what your historical data of the markets has told you. It's still a probable outcome, because the markets are comprised of the thoughts and energies of millions and millions of traders across the planet. So you have no control over market movement. So the best you can do is make an educated guess as to what direction the market may be going. And if you truly believe that you've done the best educated guess you can, then you won't be invested in any single trade or set of trades.
Wow.
Because you will know that there's always opportunity.
Wow. And that's definitely clear the way you put that. So when you mentioned earlier, you have to figure out the type of trader you want to be. Is that more down the line of self-knowledge, or is that the strategy you want to deploy? What do you mean about figuring out what type of trader you want to be? And maybe what are the types of trades, and how do you do that?
Well, it's kind of like when you choose what market you want to trade. When I first became a floor trader at the Mid-Am, I was already interested in T-bonds. I don't know why. Okay, if somebody asked me why, I'd say I have no idea. It was just, I don't know, the numbers resonated with me, the action resonated with me. I don't know. It was just, that's what it was. I wasn't into the foreign currencies at the time. I wasn't into the, live hogs, live cattle, pork bellies. I wasn't into that. And the grains, forget it, because they were just so slow and boring. Okay, so there was just something about T-bonds that just attracted me. And I know it's a little more difficult nowadays because everybody's trading online, but if you don't have a history of being on the trading floor, it really doesn't make much difference. The point is, if you look at a market and you have fun with it, and it doesn't matter if it's Forex or the E-minis or the precious metals or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. If you like it, then that is your market, number one. And if you like that market and learn it well, as you continue to trade, you're going to figure out what type of trading works for you best. A mechanical trading where, as I said, you put on your trade, you put in your stops and walk away, or subjective where you're sitting there staring at the screen all day, or the intuitive, which again, will probably come in time the more you learn about how you think. So it's a matter really of trial and error, just like finding out what market you really like. That's trial and error.
Right.
I have a lot of traders that call me up and say, oh, I'm just not getting this market. And I said, well, do you like that market? Well, not really. Well, then why are you trading it? Seriously. So it's just a matter of picking and choosing what market you like. And then as you trade, figuring out what is best for you in your life. Do you want to sit and stare at the screen 10 hours a day? Or do you want to have a life? So it's really, a lot of traders are really addicted to that screen. And, their marriages suffer, their relationships suffer. I could get into more where they don't take a shower for 3 days, or they're in the same sweatpants for a week.
Wow.
And that's not healthy. That's why I say the body, mind, and spirit has to be in alignment. And it's just a matter of, you knew who you were before you were a trader. You knew what you liked to do. You knew what your life consisted of. That doesn't change. The only thing that changes is that now you have a career as a trader. But everything else is still the same.
Yeah, I can totally get that. And one thing about, when you mention your love for T-bonds, when I talk to successful traders, there's usually some type of calling to trading. So I just want to take a slight step back. Can you tell the story about just how you found trading, your first experience with it, and then why do you love, or what do you love about trading? Because it definitely seems like there's a calling to certain individuals.
After college, I went to Chicago to visit an older sister, and I thought I was going on vacation, of course, but she said, no, you're going on job interviews. So anyway, I went on a whole bunch of job interviews, and, I interviewed with the ADA and law firms and banks and uh, Oppenheimer Securities and stuff like that. And none of them really resonated with me. Now, Oppenheimer Securities, I was kind of interested in because, they're a well-established firm. But all the guys, all the workers there, they were mostly men, let's be honest. They were all old, like in their 40s. I'm like, I'm 21, right? It's like, anyway. So, they did make me an offer, but I just wasn't interested. And then one of the last interviews I went on was working for the vice president of the Mid-America Commodity Exchange. Now, I didn't know what a commodity was at the time. I knew what stocks were, but I didn't know what commodities were. So I went and interviewed for the job. I didn't know what that meant, what I was going to be doing. But the VP said, don't worry, you'll learn everything. I said, great. So I took that job, even though it was the lowest paying offer at the time, because I just had a feeling about it. And I was right, because for the next 3 years, I learned the exchanges inside and out. I loved my job, honest to goodness. I was typing up, when you look in the Wall Street Journal and you see the open interest and, the volume and all that kind of stuff in the paper, I was typing that up to send to the Wall Street Journal every day.
Wow.
Yeah, so I got in to the thick of it. And along the way, I met a lot of traders. I was single, I was dating, what the heck? And I learned a lot from these traders, some of the best of the best and some of the worst of the worst. And then, of course, I had gone as far as I could at the exchange. And I said, if I don't try this now, I never will. So I quit my job and started trading on the Mid-Am. And I was scared. Don't get me wrong. My monthly nut was about $600, which back in the 80s was not a lot. I was living in a studio. But not to have a paycheck, yeah, it was pretty daunting. But I was really fortunate that a lot of the traders that I had worked with, while I was at the exchange, took me under their wing. And they taught me their trading systems, and they taught me how to deal with loss or not. Some of them were alcoholics, some of them were popping Quaaludes, some of them were vegan, so it ran the whole gamut of personalities. And so after a couple weeks on the trading floor, I knew I was hooked. I loved it. And you know what? I didn't even care if I made a boatload of money, I just wanted to be a trader. That's it. I can't describe it any other way. I mean, I was still young, so it wasn't like I was sick of a job or I wanted personal freedom. I just saw this as a super cool thing to do, and so I did. And I had great teachers, some of which I'm still friends with today, and the rest. It's and then 3 or 4 years after that, I met Mark through a mutual friend. He was a retail broker. I was a floor trader, and we just started talking. And I fell in love with his mind. And I guess vice versa, because 3 months later, we moved in together. But don't tell my mother that. So, awesome. and the rest is history, as everybody, well, hopefully most people know. But so, no, it was just, I can't describe it. It's just, when it hits you, it hits you. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I get that.
I don't think there's really any rhyme or reason. You just know that's what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, totally. And so you mentioned, the people that get that calling, they have to, in order to reach consistent profitability, they have to have an alignment of their body, their mind, and their spirit. What are some of the biggest hurdles to accomplishing that? And it's interesting that it's body, mind, and spirit. Is that the order that it has to be accomplished? Just tell us a little more about that.
Well, I'll give you a classic example. There was a floor trader that came to us for coaching, meaning Mark and I, back in the late 90s. And he was just having a really bad day. And he was a decent trader. I mean, he didn't take millions out, but, he made a nice living, well into the six figures every year. And, he came to the office one day and he was down about 300 grand and really just upset. So I said to him, I said, well, what happened this morning? And he started going on about his trades. I said, no. I said, what happened when you got up in the morning? And he said, well, I got up and I continued the fight I was having with my wife from the night before. And I yelled at my kids and nothing got resolved. And then on the way out, I tripped over the dog and it yelped and I felt really bad.
Wow.
And then he came into work and he got a cup of coffee, and he was Catholic and he always carried a rosary in his pants pocket. And he got his change from getting the coffee and he put the change in the same pocket as his rosary. So those three things, he was toast. He didn't feel good because he didn't get any sleep. He was tired. He was still ticked off at his wife. He felt guilty about arguing with her and yelling at his kids and, of course, stumbling over his dog. Then on top of that, spiritually, now he's put dirty money on top of his rosary.
Oh, wow.
Of course he lost money.
He's feeling
so
terrible.
Physically he felt like crap. His mind was wrapped around the arguments, and his spirituality now was made muddy because of the dirty money on his rosary. So there's no way he could trade and make money because he felt horrible about himself all the way around. And this is classic. This is not just an isolated incident.
And so in that situation, when you suggest to your clients, is it best to not get in the market that day, or are there techniques that you use to kind of reset?
Oh, well, yeah. If he had come to me before he started trading, I would have said, you're not getting in the pit today. Not even. So, he lost 300 grand. So I told him he needed to go home and apologize to his family, make sure the dog was okay, take his rosary out and wash it or whatever he needed to do with it. But more importantly, he had to understand that the very money that he is making is not dirty.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Money is not dirty. Money is energy. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I see, they walk by coins in the street. I've even had people walk by dollar bills laying in the street. And I'm like, well, thank you. I'm picking it up. It's money. Why would you walk by money?
Right. At any quantity.
That's right. But people say, oh, well, it's not worth my time because it's just coins or it's dirty. So if you have any of those beliefs floating around in your brain, you're not going to be able to accumulate because now the profit's not big enough, not worth the effort. Same thing.
Yeah. And, you saying that makes me think of something that you had said to me about the winners versus the fake traders. What's the difference? What does that mean when you say becoming a winner versus a fake trader?
Fake traders convince themselves that they have no problems. Fake traders convince themselves that the next trade is going to take them out of their emotional pain because the next trade is going to make it all right. And they may be right for that trade, but then they may have another bust cycle, which just negates the whole process and they have to start all over again. Whereas a winner doesn't care what the trade brings him as long as he has followed his rules because he always knows there's opportunity. Always.
Yeah. And it just resonates so much. I just like the way that you're presenting this information because it's awesome. And I think about the other side because that's the individual who may not put their hand up and say, okay, I need help. But on the other side, there's the traders that give up and they quit on their dreams. What are some of the main reasons that you've seen in your career that traders quit, that makes them quit?
Oh, it's just blowing up their accounts.
Oh, so kind of forced out.
That's right. Yeah, right. Other than that, they're really, there might be some reason the other one is family. They either blow up their account and they can't refund it, or their family just hates traders and they push them out. Those are the two things.
Okay. And so, we've talked about, my show's content and making sure that, and I won't even say making sure, but just, I know you stand strong in making sure that you deliver a straight message. With that being said, what do you think are some of the fallacies versus the reality of trading, maybe from individuals getting in or individuals who are delusional while they're trading? What are some of the reality checks that happen in this business?
I'm not quite sure if I understand the question, but if after my answer, just tell me if I didn't understand it. But one thing I always tell traders is, there is no holy grail. Okay. There is no trading system on the planet that is going to give you 100% winning trades or even 90%. Okay. If you have a good system that gives you 40% or 50% winning trades, that's great. That is fabulous. All right. So if you're getting almost a 50% return on your system and you're managing your trades, just stick with that. The other thing is, too, you have to be really careful because this business we're in, since the beginning of time, since the 1800s when the Board of Trade was first founded, there are always charlatans here that will make great claims that they're pulling this amount of money out of the markets, and now it's in chat rooms. There are just countless chat rooms. This is not true. You have to understand that everybody out there exaggerates their success, so you will subscribe to them. So you can't think that you're not as good as them because more than likely their results are not exactly what they're telling you. And this is really critical for traders to understand that if someone is really pulling that amount of money out of the markets, then why are they in a chat room with you? Seriously. Because if they're going to be pulling out six figures, let's say on a weekly or monthly basis, they wouldn't have time to be in a chat room, and certainly not during trading hours.
Yeah,
Seriously.
that makes a lot of sense.
Okay,
Yeah,
so just take that into your, mental environment, guys, and this is where the intuition comes into play. If you're not 100% comfortable with anything anyone tells you, including myself, then don't use it. Because that's your intuition telling you this is not for you.
Yeah, and no, that's perfect. That's exactly the type of question I was asking there. And just that leads me to my next question. And I know it may be skewed because of your line of work, but what would you say, because you talked about the strategy and not having the holy grail, what would you say is the difference or the comparison to being a consistently profitable trader when you think about the strategy versus the psychological aspect? What is the percentage of what it takes to be consistently profitable? Where does that weigh?
I would say 85 to 90 psychological and 10% technical. Anybody can read a chart. Anybody can do analysis. And I know some fabulous analysts, but they can't trade their way out of a paper bag. I'm serious. I mean, I think I mentioned you. I worked with a guy for a couple of years. I did live trading with him. And he would say, okay. And I'm like, okay, you got a good strategy. You got great analysis. He was so good that I wanted to go into partnership with this guy. So you give me the setups, I'll be the mechanical trader. This is how good his analysis was. And he refused. He said, no, I've got to trade it myself. Well, good luck with that. So for weeks, he couldn't put a trade on because he'd go, well, let's look at the 15-minute chart. Well, let's look at the 5-minute chart. Well, I'm going to go look at a 3-minute. Well, now we got to get back to the 30-minute. He was in analysis paralysis. It was sad. It was really sad. I made the offer to him a number of times and he refused. The worst part about it is now he hung out a shingle giving trading advice to others.
Oh, wow.
Yes, this is my point. If someone is giving you trading advice or do this or do that, ask for their track record. If they can't give it to you or they won't give it to you, hello, what's that tell you?
Yeah. And so, yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. And I'm wondering, because you mentioned this trader who was really successful. When you think about all the traders that you've made successful or the ones that you've worked with that are successful, is there a small set of qualities that all of these traders have, or is there just a bigger picture to becoming consistently profitable?
Basically, they have to get out of their own way. And I say that loosely because if someone doesn't even know they're in their own way, then they can't get out of their own way. So that's why a lot of times, like I said, somebody could have the free 30-minute chat with me, or they could have a one-time consultation, or they could have multiple consultations. But any one of those might address just that, and that may be all they need. And they go on their merry way to make the kind of money they want. So it's the personal makeup of each individual trader. That's why there's no cookie cutter coaching. No matter what else is out there on the internet, and I know a lot of people are out there doing cookie cutter coaching, which I'm sure works to whatever degree for whoever subscribes to that. But when you really want to become a winner, when you want to consistently and sustainably think like a winner, then you're going to be willing to make an investment in yourself and look inside yourself and say, okay, I don't need to think in this limited fashion any longer. I'm going to change and mean it.
Yeah. And so thinking about that change, what are the steps from I'm decided I'm going to be a trader to consistently profitable? Are there overarching steps that you can recognize where individuals are on the journey as you see them as traders?
I mean, there's general things, like I said earlier, fear of losing, don't want to look stupid, don't want to let their family down. They've got to prove something. Those are kind of typical challenges. But again, each one of those and more is person specific. So, like one trader's fear of losing is based on something that may have happened to him when he was 15. Maybe he lost, $100 or something. It fell out of his pocket. And then he got yelled at by his mom saying, where's the groceries, because he lost the money. Whereas another trader's fear of losing might be because he was called a loser his whole life. So it's intangible things inside each trader's mind that they really have to address. Like if you feel to any degree that you're not smart enough, you don't have enough education, even if it's just a fleeting thought, the fact that that fleeting thought is in your brain will limit you from sustained profit.
And I can get that. And so let's talk about some of the solutions. So you did say that, there's different parts of the journey. Everyone can be experiencing different challenges. But when you take on a client, what's your process like? What's the goal? Or is that just consistent profitability? But what's the goal? What's your resources? What's your coaching like? What's the transition process look like?
When a trader contacts me, as I said, I offer free 30-minute chat to everyone. That's an open-ended offer. If they choose to sign up for a consultation where they're paying me for my expertise, I make it very clear I'm not here to hold their hand. I am a bit of a taskmaster, and what I will do is I will take notes as they're talking with me, and I will create exercises for them in the form of essay questions based on what they told me in our conversation. And I will send that to them, and they will have to work on those exercises and write down their answers on paper with a pen or pencil, not in the computer, because that's their truth. Because if you write something into the computer, you can edit, delete, you close the file, it's gone, and you haven't changed anything.
Right.
So when you write something down on a pad of paper or a paper notebook, it's right there in front of you, and you get it out of your brain. You get all those limiting thoughts and beliefs out of your brain, out of your mental environment. And they can't have another session until they do the exercises. And I will know within the first couple minutes of a next session if they've done the exercises. And if they haven't, I say, call me back when you have. Because this is about them. This is about me sharing my expertise. Mark and I didn't spend our whole lives creating the whole field of trading psychology not to know what we're talking about. I mean, our books wouldn't be bestsellers. They wouldn't be translated into 9 languages.
Right.
If our materials weren't, truthful, this is where you need to go. So if someone wants to embark on the journey of thinking for themselves to create the kind of financial freedom they dream of, then this is it right here. This is where it all started. And I will do my best to help anyone become the best they can be.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And I do, while we're mentioning that that offer, because talking to you for 30 minutes at no cost is phenomenal. And so that can be found at the website, thepaulatwebb.com. Is that where they would go to experience that? Okay.
Yeah, or markdouglas.com. They both point to the same website.
Excellent. And so just overarching, what do you think is the biggest thing that a new trader, or maybe just a trader who's experiencing hard times, what's the biggest thing that you believe they need to figure out or they need to know?
Just understand that they don't know what they don't know. And that's okay, because it's all part of the journey. And it's all just a learning curve. There's nothing to feel bad about. It's like, okay, I don't know this. That's okay. Then let's find the answers together. Just don't get disappointed. There's nothing to get disappointed about as long as you learn from anything that you're doing with your trading. That's the beauty of trading. You get to learn every single day and grow.
And that's definitely something that is cool about being able to have something so attached to who we are, as individuals, and be able to express that during trading. So I think it's phenomenal, just the whole journey. When we think about, and I want to, kind of wrap this up and put a bow on it. When you think about some of and you just mentioned some of the things that traders should know, but when you think about some action steps, something that someone can do listening to this podcast, outside of contacting you, because I definitely suggest everyone does that, what is one thing that someone can do today to become a better trader next week or in the next coming months?
Okay, so the first thing that any trader can do, it's very simple. Get that pad of paper or a spiral notebook, at Walgreens or your dollar store. Open it up, date it for whatever day you're starting to write, and write down, what is it that I want to accomplish with my trading today? And then write down everything that comes into your brain. Don't stop, don't second guess, don't hesitate. Just write down everything that comes into your brain. And it could be, I don't want to lose, or I want to not move my stops. I want to follow my rules. I want to make some money. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Just write it down, because now you're starting to know what you're thinking and why. It really is that simple, guys.
That's powerful. That is excellent. And so all the listeners, you will be able to find the show notes at tradingascension.com, where you can find the website and the links to some of the videos. There's some awesome videos that I've seen that I definitely want to reference you to. And then outside of that, I want to talk about some of the books. What books would you suggest that they go out and get just immediately, no matter where they're at on the journey?
Well, Trading in the Zone is the most popular. I'll be honest. Becoming the Disciplined Trader is our second most popular. And what that is I took the original book that we wrote, The Disciplined Trader, and I added in current examples. Because let's be honest, guys, The Disciplined Trader was published in 1990, and even though the information is timeless, as with all our books, there were examples in there that were pertinent to that time, and traders today wouldn't know, let's say, about the Hunt brothers or other things that happened. So in Becoming the Disciplined Trader book, I explained the examples that we originally put in there. And then for the newer traders, the Complete Trader is really an excellent tool to understand price movement, volume, open interest, and how they really work. Because a lot of traders today really think that trading is all computerized. And I'm not saying that there aren't algorithms that, are created, but the bottom line is trading is live. It's not a computer matching your trade, except just electronically. There's a live person on the other side of those trades. And as I said earlier, the energy of all those traders across the planet is what makes the markets move, not computers. Because if computers were trading, there would be no markets, because the computers would even everything out. So keep that in mind, guys. Those three books. And then the last one is Success Without Fear. And that's a really good book to help traders understand where they may be limiting themselves in their thinking about success.
Excellent. Great suggestions. This has been a real honor. I've definitely learned a lot myself, and I know we're going to add a lot of value with this episode. Paula T., thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Well, thank you for having me, Jason. It was really a lot of fun.
I hope that was helpful. It was super fun to create. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed and if you benefited from our time together today, please share this podcast with others you care about. You can check out more thought-provoking talks around personal growth, spiritual growth, and day trading at tradingascension.com. You can post to any of the show guests on the website there. Check out the resources page. Have a free gift there for you. And I'd love to hear from you with any comments on the contact page, any feedback on the show. One last thing, remember to be the hero of your story.